All right, we are live here in the Facebook group. My name is Jeremy Miner. I'm here with one of our lead account executives, one of our top sales executives, Josh Lyons, all the way from the UK to Colombia to this resort in Mexico. So we're actually going live for you right now on a platform called StreamYard. We're going live inside our Facebook group, Sales Revolution. I believe there's about 57,000 of you running around in there after us. We're going live in our YouTube channel. It's really hot out here, so we have cows.
Hot.
Like I'm dying out here. We wanted to go live outside. We're going live on our Facebook group, Sales Revolution, our Facebook business page. About 90,000 of you in the business page. My Facebook, our LinkedIn, and YouTube. All right. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Normally on Wednesdays we interview a client from a completely different industry every single week. But because Josh and I are here at this event, we're at a private mastermind with Russell Brunson called Category Kings and Inner Circle members. Your company has to be doing a certain amount of revenue per month, per year to be invited to pay him to come here. But it's been well worth it. We've been networking, have a lot of fun. Matt, our CEO, my business partner, is supposed to be here, but he got a bad ear infection, so he couldn't fly, so he's not here. So instead of interviewing a client, what I thought we would do, since Josh and I are here, is just, we posted yesterday and we said, hey, what questions do you have for me and Josh that we can answer for? Maybe stuff you've just never heard from me, like something personal, or maybe something I went through in my sales career, or that Josh went through in his career before he, actually he was a client a couple of years ago. Now he works with 7th Level. So we're going to open up for questions. Now, you want to start acquiring skills that work with human behavior. You want to start making your first 10 grand a month in commissions, or your first 15 or 20, or let's say you want to start getting up to 30 grand every single month with what you sell right now. Or let's say you're a bigger thinker. You want to make 40 or 50 grand plus per month in your industry. I can assure you, we are training tons of salespeople, if not thousands or tens of thousands in your industry, that are making those numbers every friggin' month. And there's no difference between them and you. The only difference is they've acquired a more advanced sales ability from learning NEPQ, all right? So you want to start acquiring those skills, message me directly right now. So if you're in the Facebook group or my Facebook or LinkedIn, message me directly right now. If you're on YouTube, you'll have to join the Facebook group, salesrevolution.pro, before you can message me. I don't think you can review on that platform, all right? Now, what we're going to talk about, we're going to open up for Q&A. And if you're brand new, if you don't know who I am, I'm the founder of 7th Level, and we're an organization that trains salespeople exactly like you watching us right here, right? So we train sales professionals like you, sales executives like you, coaches like you, consultants, entrepreneurs, anybody who wants to sell more of their products and services. And we train you specific skilled questions and techniques, especially with your tone, that work with human behavior, that cause your prospects to want to open up and engage and pull you in. That's called NEPQ, or neuro-emotional persuasion questioning. Now, we obviously have to teach you the right tone, because questions are one thing, but the way your prospect, I always train our salespeople and salespeople in industry, the way your prospect interprets the meaning behind your question comes from your tone, because there's certain parts of the conversation that has to be used in more of a curious tone. Like, John, can you walk me through what you guys are? That's a curious tone. There's other questions in your repertoire, your sales process, that require more of a challenging or skeptical tone, right? Well, what happens if you don't? See, that's more of a challenging or skeptical tone. And then there's other parts of the sales process that requires more of a concerned tone. You're leaning in. What's really holding you back from, that's a concerned tone, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today as we sweat it out. Yeah. Now, Josh, you've got a list of questions.
I was going to say, we were talking about tone yesterday with AI.
Yeah. Tell us, actually, this is a good question, because I've seen people in the chats and
skeptics asking all the
like
time.
People on IG that follow me on IG or TikTok or YouTube, whatever. They're like, Jeremy, what are your thoughts about AI? And tell me what was the question you asked me? Let's talk about that for a second. Let's start off, because everybody keeps asking me about, is AI going to replace salespeople?
So we see it all the time in the Facebook groups or the YouTube, or people that are coming into sales, or they've been in sales a while, and they say, well, isn't AI just going to replace sales reps?
Yeah.
And I said, what would you say?
What would Jay Miner say?
Yeah.
I remember when I first got into sales 21, 22 years ago, and people said that the internet was going to replace salespeople. So I take it as a grain of salt. Now, I think AI is different than the internet, but my thing with AI, I think it's going to help like in chats and like messaging and stuff like that. But there's a couple things that I don't think a lot of people realize. Number one, the government will come in and regulate AI. I hate to tell everybody that, but you know, the government is going to regulate that, because can you imagine consumers complaining to the FTC that they were sold a product or service by a robot that manipulated them? What do you think's going to happen to that company with that type of AI device? They're going to get shut down quickly, or they're going to get highly, highly regulated on the power of what AI can do. I hate to tell everybody this. If you don't think the government is going to regulate AI, when consumers complain to the FTC that they were manipulated into buying something they didn't want to, you are living in a fantasy land, because it will get regulated for sure. Now, we don't know what that regulation is going to look like, but I'm pretty sure the government is, once they start hearing tens of thousands of complaints of consumers buying stuff, complaining,
I didn't want to buy that. I was pressured by the robot.
Pressured by the robot. It's going to get highly, highly like dumbed down. It just will in the sales process. So that's one thing.
The other thing you said was, who would you rather talk to?
Yeah.
A robot?
Yeah.
Or a human being?
Yeah. And as a consumer, I want you now, imagine, some people might say, I'd rather talk to a robot right now. But imagine AI 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now, in that sales process, people might actually rather talk to a human being because they feel like they can read a salesperson's tonality better or body language, whereas they can't really do that with AI. They can't do that with
who
a
are
robot.
The sales reps that are going to be left in those years to come?
Yeah, exactly. Now,
only the good ones.
Yeah, exactly. Now, it'll weed out some of the bottom feeders, I think, maybe the bottom 10 or 20%. But I mean, with regulation coming from the FTC on that, there's just no way salespeople are just going to be replaced and everybody's going to want to be sold by a robot. I hate to tell you that. A lot of people, most people will be like, I don't want to be sold by a robot, because they feel like the robot's better and they can get manipulated by the robot. So I would say, to answer that, I hope that answers their question. But I think it's a lot of times people just don't think about it.
And can we see the live comments if anyone's got a question live?
I don't know if we can see the live. We can't see the live comments from there. You know what I can do?
If not, we've got a.
We can do. I can get on my phone. I can get on my phone.
Because if anyone's live and you've got a question you want to ask either of us, you can post it.
I can get on my phone.
If anyone's live, we'll run the.
Okay, I'm starting to see.
Can you see any new ones, latest ones?
I'm not seeing any latest ones yet. Let's keep going with what we have here.
Okay.
Now we're it's showing us live on YouTube, the Facebook group, and all those platforms, right, Isaac? Just making sure.
Facebook.
Yeah. Okay, so we're live on there. Okay, cool. That's good. All right, so what questions do we have? Let's get going.
So Felix Antoine asked you, what is the biggest challenge that you personally faced in sales getting to where you are now in your career?
I think my biggest challenge I would have, I mean, there's so many challenges. I would say the biggest challenge for me was going from B2C sales. So I got my first sales job selling home security systems door to door the summer of 2000. This was before I developed any PQ. Like, I was using traditional, just kind of winging it, and I started bringing in like behavioral science stuff that I was learning from my professors in school and psychology stuff into the sales process. And, every month got better until I was the number one rep in that company. And then a few years later, that industry. But after 5 years, I wanted a career change. Yeah. And I went from B2C sales, selling door to door when I was in college, and I jumped into selling B2B, business to business. And in the beginning, I mainly sold to SMB, like, more small, medium-sized businesses. But that was just a shift from selling like a transactional sale where it's like a one-call close, throw it over your back, you never talk with the prospect again.
So it was more relationship
and then I got into like B2B sales where it was not even, and I think relationship selling means different things to different people. But for me, B2B sales is just a longer sales cycle. Like my sales cycle in B2B sales, I was selling debt relief services. Typically were a few months, maybe 2 to 3 months at the most. But the thing was like transferring like what I'd learned in B2C over to B2B. Now, the thing that really helped me, because within 6 months of getting into B2B sales, I was the number one salesperson in the entire company out of about 450 reps. And that's pretty large for a B2B company at that point. So I went from like the new guy to number one in about 5-6 months, somewhere in that range. What helped me is that sales process of understanding any PQ and how to apply it into anything that I was selling. So when I left B2B, that B2B sales job, probably about 5 years later, and then I went back into B2C, I just transferred that right over. And within like a month, it was just boom. It was just lights out. You know, within a couple months, I was the #1 salesperson in that new industry, like in the entire industry. And then the next job was like, it was kind of B2B / B2C. It was kind of both. I was selling to consumers and like small, medium-sized companies. It was just an easy transition. That's where we've been able to take NEPQ into 158 industries and be able to duplicate in any industry we train.
Structure.
Even if it was a new industry, you know, within a month, we're duplicating in that industry because of the structure. So I think the biggest challenge for me was not having that structure fully in place from my first job to my second job. And while I was in that job, I had to kind of figure out that structure myself. So that was probably my biggest challenge that I can think of.
Khan Man says, what would be the best approach to cold calling potential clients for a financial advisor who specializes in retirement planning? So cold calling.
Well, typically with financial advisors, because we train thousands of financial advisors, I don't know many financial advisors that just straight on cold call without this person being on their email list, or they've opted into something, or they have something from the company. So sometimes I find people in that industry, they think like calling old leads is cold calling, when it's not. It's really, in our mind, it'd be more of an outbound lead. Cold calling in our mind is like, you find somebody on LinkedIn and you found their phone number and you just randomly call the person, and they have no idea who you are. They've never opted in. They've never asked for anything. They're not already a current client. A lot of financial advisors will call, like, you know, current clients, maybe a financial advisor left, and they'll call them and try to upsell them. But let's just say that you do cold call, because maybe this guy does, which is, it just depends on the company, but most more call outbound leads, or they'll get like a list. They'll get a list of investors from another company that gets sold to them or something. Sometimes that happens. And it depends on how high net worth of investor they are, right? If they've got a net worth of over $10 million, my problem statement's going to be different than if I'm just calling somebody that might have $200,000 or $300,000, if that makes sense. Because
you're making it specific.
Yeah, because I have to make it more specific. So I want to come up with what's called a problem statement, like one generic problem that anybody I cold call can identify with. Now, really the secret to success in cold calling is your tone and how you use it. Because I could take a cold calling script that's like the worst ever and completely shift around my tone and like lower it and soften it where it's more easygoing, more collective, and the person's going to open up more than if I have the best script and I'm like really assumptive and energetic and like salesy, if that makes sense. So I want to say, like, you know, hey, is this John? Yeah, John, it's just Jeremy Minor. I was wondering if you could help me out for a moment. Now, see what I just did there. How did my tone sound? I was wondering if you could help me out for a moment.
Very, very casual. Like you already kind of know them. Like it's not a big deal.
Yeah. The reason why I say just there's some sales trainers that will say, don't use the word just because it implies that what you're talking about is not important. I hate to tell you, on a cold call, your prospects don't think what you're talking about is important at all. The word just, now I wouldn't use that in other parts. Like if I'm doing an inbound lead, I'm not going to use that, right? But on a cold call where they have no idea who you are, you have zero trust, zero credibility, I hate to tell you, they don't care about you. Just because you think it's important doesn't mean they're going to think it's important. So the word just in the English language implies that they should already know you.
And if you're leaning out, like it isn't that important, they're like, well, what's this guy want?
Yeah,
they lean in.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're the one on their face, into them, they're like, whoa,
when you're pushing,
phone down,
they just push back, right? So we have to use techniques like Josh talking about that gets them to pull in. It was just Josh Lyons. I was wondering if you could possibly help me out for a moment. Now,
who's this?
Most of the people are like, who's this? Or they're going to be like, yeah, sure. Or what's this all about? Now, it depends on I'm assuming they have the number of the actual person they're talking to, not a gatekeeper. Most of the time, there could be some differences. And then what I would do is I'd make it some type of problem statement. I'd have to look at the problem statements we developed for that industry, but something around
for people that don't know what a problem statement is.
Problem statement is just one or two generic problems that anybody you cold call can identify with, where it at least causes them to be curious about what you're doing. See, cold calling, like doing a problem statement, is not meant to sell the prospect. It's meant to get them into a two-way conversation. That's really it. If you can get them into a two-way conversation, it's going to go north compared to, you getting triggered in fight or flight mode and they try to get rid of you. So I might say something like, I was wondering if you can help me out. Sure, how can I help you? Yeah, and I'm not even quite sure if you're the person. Now, it depends on if you're calling a company. Because if you're calling a company about financial advisory, here's how you do it. Yeah, and I'm not quite sure if you're the person I should be talking to, but I called to see if your company would be opposed to looking at like any possible hidden gaps in your blank that could be causing the firm to blank. Now, you have to plug in those blanks. Yeah, hidden gaps in your, let's say, retirement benefits for your employees that could be causing you to lose some of your top people. See, if I'm calling a company, that could be on their mind. Any possible hidden gaps in your retirement benefits you're offering that could be causing the firm to lose top people to competitors. See, that causes them to be like, well, who is this again? Or what's this all about? And then I'm going to go into what's called a personalized introduction. Well, you know how a lot of companies sometimes get frustrated because of blank, blank, and blank. So what we do is we help them X, Y, and Z and blank. All right. Now, if I'm calling it, that's how you do it with a company. If it's more of an individual, I was just calling to see, and I got your number from XYZ, but I called to see if you would be opposed to looking at any possible issues or hidden gaps in like your, I don't know, retirement that could be causing you to like overpay fees or whatever the consequence is that you specialize. That's how you do a problem statement. And tell that person, wherever that is, have them message me directly and in like the Facebook group. Have them message me directly in the Facebook group. And we can ask them a little bit more questions. They can even book with the team member, because like in our virtual training courses, like especially Advanced NEPQ 3.0 Advanced Inner Circle, we teach hours and hours of cold calling and help them make it industry specific to their industry. So
this next one's about the book.
Okay.
So what's the book about? What is
the book? Yeah, have you guys got the book? So that's the book. So the book was written by myself and by a gentleman by the name of Jerry Acuff. Jerry Acuff's a good friend of mine. He's the CEO of Delta Point. It's a large sales consulting firm on the East Coast. They mainly specialize in the pharmaceutical industry, but they've spread out, and they have some big clients like Johnson & Johnson and Merck and AstraZeneca, and probably more. If Jerry's watching, I'm sorry I didn't do you justice there. You got many more clients than that, but they're even, I think Hertz is one of their clients now. But so we wrote this book together about how consumer buying behaviors have drastically changed and how salespeople have not caught on to that. And because they're still using traditional selling skills like the AIDA model of selling or repackaged as consultative selling, they're struggling.
The old way is dead.
Yeah, the old way is dead. They're struggling and they don't know why. And they feel like, I've got to work more hours, call more leads, but it's
or
really
have a
what
boxing match on the phone.
Yeah, it's what you're saying and asking, and it's your tone and how it's being interpreted that's triggering so many of your prospects to run the other way that have problems that your solution can solve. What's the missing link? It's just the way you've been forced to sell. It's not your fault, right? You've been forced to sell because you've read books from the sales gurus from 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, or just repackaged from a new guru that copy and pasted the old guru's book is what I found. And you're wondering why it doesn't work. It doesn't work because we live in a different age. We live in the information age, okay? It's asking the right questions at the right time, but it's specifically with the right tone that causes either the prospect to open up and want to go below the surface and engage, or triggers fight or flight mode where they stay surface level with you, give you very general or vague answers, surface level. And then at the end, what happens. I want to think it over. I want to think it over. I'm not ready for this. I need to do more research. I need to get more quotes. I want to talk with my spouse. I need to talk with the board more, and it's over.
And then people want to know the objection handling for that, but it's an issue further upstream.
Yeah, and we teach you, we in our courses, especially Advanced NEPQ 3.0, we have the Advanced Top 50 Objections course as well in there that we train you all the objections. But wouldn't you rather learn how to prevent most of the objections from happening in the prospect's mind?
Yeah, if you've got the objection handling, but your opening question is, so what about XYZ is keeping you up at night?
People are going to shut down.
Derailed.
You derail it from hello. So the book, I wanted to write a book that had some tactical training in it, because the problem I always found with sales books, and I've read 1,300 some sales books in the last 22 years. I read five a month. I usually listen to about 2 to 3 audio in the car, and then I read 2 or 3, just in my spare time. So about 5 books a month times 12 months a year, 60 books a year. So in most books, they just give you like theory, and they just repeat it over and over in a different way. And it's like you walk out of the book and you're like, I didn't really learn anything.
It's more like a biography.
It's like a biography, right? It's like a story. And so with this book, Jerry and I put in tons of different examples of different questions to ask and why you're triggering your prospects to go into fight or flight mode and certain words you're using that's triggering that. Now, a lot of people ask me like, hey, I want to buy your book because I want to triple my sales. I hate to tell you this. The book is going to give you an intro to the new model of selling. Reading a book, Behavioral Science 101, you only retain, according to the psychology, you retain about 3%. 3% of what you're going to read in this book. You want to triple your sales, you've got to have constant reinforced training every single day. That's why we have our virtual training courses that people log into 20, 30 minutes a day. Plus we have group training all throughout the week, 7, 8 different training calls a week for different time zones from our advanced sales trainers and myself. Josh, I think you've done some of those as well. And the reason why you have to have that is because you have to learn the ins and outs, and you're not going to learn the ins and outs in a book. Now, would I recommend buying the book? Yes, because it's a good introduction. But if you want to like triple, quadruple, you want to start making 15, 20, 30, 40 grand a month in commissions, there's no book on planet Earth that's going to give you that. It's going to give you a few tips, but it's not going to give you the sales process.
It's almost like a map. If you get the book and you look at the different sections of NEPQ, whether it's situation, connecting, consequence, or even the methodology, your tonality, and you're reading the book and you're like, this is an area that I'm not good at. I don't really use consequence questions, or I know I'm not good at it. You can get the book and you can then, if you want to, join, something like 3.0 or even Inner Circle and have the opportunity to practice the things from the book.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the book's going to give you some introduction, but it's not, we give different industry-specific examples. We train 158 industries, so I try to give at least 30 or 40 different industry examples in here for different parts. But if you're wanting to like triple, quadruple your income, you'll buy the book, but you'll have to get into virtual and group training if you want to have those skills. But the book is good. Go to Barnes & Noble. We'll throw a link in here, maybe to Barnes & Noble. Make sure you order the book from Barnes & Noble. I love Amazon and stuff, but I'd rather have you order it from Barnes & Noble because the more orders we get on their website, the more they stock their shelves with this book. Right now, we have a deal where they're putting in like 1 or 2 in each bookstore across the nation, but we want to have 10 or 12 in each one. So you're getting the book. Go to Barnes & Noble's website and order it from that website. And in fact, we'll have somebody on the team drop a link to that Barnes & Noble link where you can purchase. But the book is a good start, but it's not going to make you wealthy.
Yeah. So this next question was actually for me, but I think we could both answer it, which was, if you could do anything different, going back to the start of your sales career to sort of where you're at now, where I'm at now in mine, what would it be for you? What would you do different to be able to grow faster?
I wish I had somebody like me train me. Let's put it that way.
So get a trainer. Get a coach,
I think you have to get a trainer that has actually done the thing that you want to do. I see so many, this really pisses me off. I see so many amateurs out there, and they'll be a salesperson for a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and they did good. But then they're like, I'm starting my own sales training company. I'm like, you sold in one industry, your knowledge, and you're just limited because you don't have the experience, and hey, granted, you made a couple $100 grand a year. That's great. But how are you going to, like, if somebody comes to you to get trained and they're like, I want to make $300,000 a year in commissions, but when you were in sales, before you started a sales training company, you only made $250. How are you going to train somebody to make more than what you did? You don't have the knowledge to do that. You don't have the expertise to do that. So if you want to make, let's say $500,000 a year in commissions or more, you want to be trained by someone who actually did the thing you want to do, 100%. Because you're never going to learn 100% of what that person knows. It's just impossible. But let's say you're able to learn 50% or 30%. And let's say they made $2 million a year, whatever, like Marco, they made $1 million a year in commissions, and you can learn 50% of his knowledge. You make $500,000. There you are. So to me, that was the biggest thing, is like learning from the right people, because a lot of times as a salesperson, you just don't know what you don't know. You might think this thing that you're learning is good, but in all reality, it might be outdated. It just might not work that well. And it might not work that well in your industry because it's more transactional type of thing. That's been my biggest thing. What about you?
For me, it's to not rest on your laurels. Like when I first got into sales, my first year, I thought, this is so much money. It's so easy. Like I was on a great offer. I had great leads. And it's easy to just stop doing what got you there. Like when I first started, the first 2-3 months was just training.
Yep.
You then get on the phones if you're okay, or you're on a good offer, or right place, right time.
Yeah.
You bang a bunch of deals and you're like, oh, I don't need to train anymore.
Yeah.
I'll stop training now.
I'm going to stop on the training calls. I agree.
And the thing is, like, yes, you probably can sustain your commissions if you're at 10K or even pushing it 20K. But if you want to get to 40 or 50 or 100, you've got to do so much work, and you can't just get complacent. You've got to be around people that are better than you. You've got to be pushing yourself. You've got to be role-playing, training. You've always got to be pushing it. And I think, I don't know what your background was before sales, but for a lot of people I know that get into sales, before that, they were working a 9 to 5. They had a very limited ceiling on their income. Sales feels like the world's opened up. And it has, but there's so much more that you don't know.
There's so much more.
Like
so
much more.
It's one thing to, it's like that first jump when you start making 10 grand a month, and then you start getting better and your skill level gets better and you go up to 15 and then
don't
to 20.
Stop at 15.
But a lot of people stop around that 15 grand a month, and they think I always say the same. Low 6-figure salespeople have high egos.
Huge.
And they think they know everything there's about selling because they make 100, 150, maybe 200 grand a year. And I saw so many people like that in my industry.
I was like that.
Yeah.
I was like that.
And when I came in there and I was like making what they were making a year in like a month, that started changing the perspective and the dynamic, because I think a lot of salespeople, like, we always get hit up like, oh, there's no way you can make that much money in my industry. I'm like, but in the industries I was in, nobody made as much as I did, not even like a third as much, until I came along and did it. Right. And it's just like the person who runs the 1 mile. Nobody can run it in under 4 minutes. And then somebody did it. And now everybody
as soon as they do, everyone does.
Exactly. So it's acquiring the right ability to know how to do it. And so you might be in an industry where people aren't making 400,000 or 500,000 a year. I'm assuming that we have people in our training that are your industry that are already making that. But maybe you don't know them. But it is possible with the right sales ability, pretty much in any industry, unless you're selling like $5 magazine subscriptions door to door. Like, you can make a lot of money in really any industry. And a lot of times when people, because we get about 30 to 50 new testimonials every day in our Facebook group or on IG or on YouTube or some ads. And we have a lady that collects all those. And a lot of times when people post like, oh, I made, 45,000 this month in commissions in my industry and what I sold, I'm in the inner circle training program, whatever. People are like, well, what industry are you in? And they think it's the industry. But every time I go back and I look at their industry, and I'm like, that industry, the average salesperson makes $4,000 a month. So if the average salesperson makes $4,000 a month and this guy's making 40 or 50,000 a month, it's not the industry, it's the sales ability. So the best thing, I think the biggest mistake that most salespeople make is they blame everybody else but themselves for their lack of results. They blame the leads. They blame the economy. They blame their prospects. My prospects have really poor thinking, or they have a lot of fear. Well, no shit, Sherlock. It's your job as a sales professional to help them overcome that fear.
Otherwise, AI could do it.
Otherwise, AI could do it. You got to help them overcome that fear so they can move forward and get what they want and get their problem solved. That's why you're a salesman. That's why you get paid a lot of money.
And it's fun if you know what to do.
If you don't know what to do,
you can see someone that's, they're their own worst enemy. They're standing in their own way, and you can help them walk through their concerns to purchase something, enroll in something that is going to be of massive benefit to them.
It's the greatest feeling in the world.
Greatest feeling.
You get paid a big commission. You get that prospect's problem solved.
The business makes revenue.
They get their problem solved. They get what they want. Doesn't matter what you sell. It could be mortgage and protection insurance to some newest medical device knee replacement to a new car. It could be to, like, if you're a coach or a consultant, it could be solar. I mean, it literally could be anything. It could be a new home if you're a real estate agent. So,
and aside from cold calling, if someone's on the phone, they want to buy something. They have a problem they want to get rid of. They have a problem they want to solve. Now, if they'd already been able to solve the problem on their own, they wouldn't be on the phone. So like you said, they're on the phone. They want to buy. Just help them out. Know how
they have problems. If they've responded to any type of ad or reached out and they're an outbound lead or inbound lead, they have some type of problem. Otherwise, they never would have responded. They never would have put their name and email. They definitely
wouldn't have turned up to a call.
They would have never turned up to a call or answered. Or even if you cold call, most of the prospects that you cold call, if you're a cold caller, have problems. It's very rare you're going to call a company that loves 100% of what they already have. Like, it's pretty much impossible. Like, you can buy a brand new Lamborghini today, and I guarantee you in 90 days, there's going to be something about that car you don't like. I can promise you. It's just the way
anything that you would change
Yeah,
about
exactly.
that brand new Lamborghini if you could, though?
If you could, though. Yeah, I love that. So that's been a big, I think it's never be complacent. Like as a salesperson, like even when I was making close to $3 million a year in commissions at the height of my career, which was probably in like year 12 or 13 before I got up to that level, I was still studying sales every day. 45 minutes to an hour every single day. Every time I drove to an appointment or drove to run an errand, I'm listening to sales training,
in your car,
persuasion, influence, University of Wales, because I'm like, well, how do I get to 3.5 million a year? How do I get to 4? Like, because of that, I was always learning and tweaking and making the process better. And now you're welcome. Here's NEPQ. And it's still being perfected. We tweak it every year. We just redid the entire NEPQ 2.0 training portal. I redid the 11 hours of training in that. I plugged in some holes where I had some people a little bit confused here and there. There's not many holes, I have to say, but I'm a perfectionist. So anytime somebody had a question, I'm like, I didn't cover that the right way in that program. So I went in and tweaked that. And then I added like another 6 hours of training to that course. So now it's like a 16 or 17 hour course. And that's going to be uploaded to all the 2.0 members, I believe, here in about 10 days. We're close. Yeah, it's being edited right now in our Aussie office. So let's move on to the next question.
So another one for both of us was, what have either of us faced in terms of insecurities going from beginning in sales all the way through to VP roles, founder roles?
Yeah.
And how did you overcome those different, maybe perspective shifts?
Let's start with you first.
So I'm not sure. I think the question, how do you overcome them? I don't think it's a case of you, before you make an exponential leap, that you all of a sudden overcome it.
Yeah.
I think there is an element of, what do they call it? The imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like if you want to go from being a setter into being a closer, there's going to be a transition period where you're like, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference between the people that keep going from, DM setter to triager to closer to team leader to, CEO to founder, whatever, they're the people that, as we were talking about yesterday, what's more risky?
Yeah.
Having that fear and letting that fear hold you back from growing because you're like, maybe I am an imposter, maybe I am a bit insecure about it. Yeah. Or are you more afraid of staying where you are and 5 years later you're still a triager?
Yeah. I totally agree. Or like an SDR or like a BDR.
Not that there's anything wrong with being in that position, but if you want to be, if you want to be growing, it's not a case of you're not going to have any fears or insecurities. It's pushing past those.
Yeah.
And the other thing we talk about, Matt, you, myself, Anthony, all the people here, is if you can't get yourself past those fears, how are you going to be able to get a prospect through the Monocle?
Yeah. If you can't overcome your own fears,
insecurities,
how are you going to help your prospect overcome their own fears? Because really, the thing that holds back a prospect is just their fears and insecurities. It's really, they might mask it in a form of an objection, but it's really a fear of, is this going to work for me?
And they don't see the true polarity between the consequence of staying where they are or actually making a change.
That's the salesperson's job.
Exactly.
The salesperson can't tell them what that is because that goes in one ear out the other, right? You're biased through the salesperson. Their questionability and the way their tone opens up the prospect allows the prospect to tell themselves that it's far more risky staying in the status quo, problems stay the same, nothing changes, than it is for them to get the funds together and purchase what you're offering and get what they want, which is more risky, right? So I think I love that, what you just said there. I think the biggest adversity I had was really when I started 7th level, because in my mind, I had such some people would say a very successful sales career. I retired, took a year off, didn't know what I was going to do. And then I decided I was going to start a sales training company. And I locked myself in my man cave for 6 months. And I wrote out the first version of what is now NEPQ 2.0. This is like the 3rd version of 2.0. That was the first version I wrote out. It took me like 6 months to write it out, because I changed it so many different times and just put different things. But the biggest thing with me is, because I had such a successful sales career, I was like, oh, this is going to be easy, going to come in, do millions a month in revenue and just hit it out of the park. And that first year was a struggle. I think the first year the company did like 1.5 million in sales. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's really, really good. But for me, I'm just like, dude, that sucks compared to what I was doing as just a salesperson. 1.5 million in revenue doesn't mean profit. And actually that first year, I think the company made, because it was just me and my assistant, Beth. Beth is the head of customer service now. She's still with the company. I love Beth. She's so loyal. She's awesome. But it was just me and my assistant. I think I had one part-time salesperson, I think, if that. And I think I did 3 or 4 webinars. And I think the company brought in 1.5 million in revenue and spent 1.9 million. So I lost 400 grand my first year. Now I had hundreds of testimonials the first year. I was like, well, everybody's doing good. Jay Miner lost 400 grand. And that was because, number one, I didn't really know how to run a company. It's different from being like, let's say, a VP of sales or even a chief sales officer, or even just a professional salesperson doing really well, making a lot of money, compared to actually running a company and like building out webinars and trying to figure out marketing. I didn't have any of those skills, and I would hire all these marketing agencies. Most of them weren't very good either. And it was just it was so frustrating that first year. I'm telling you, like the first year, but I don't have a plan A. So with me, like when I started 7th level, like 7th level was plan A. There's no plan B. Like there's not like, oh, it might not work out, I'll go do something else. Like plan A was going to work. And so, that into that second year, that's where Matt and Marco became clients, I think at the end of that first year. And, towards the end of that second year, brought them on as my partners. Marco's the chief revenue officer and Matt's the CEO. And then since then, we started building out an organization, and we have all these people. We have like 140, some employees now and stuff. And we've been able to build out really good people to like grow and scale the business in all areas of like marketing, obviously fulfillment, customer service, running the company, scaling. And you really, as a business owner, you have to have the right people in those places to be able to scale your company. It doesn't matter if your product or service is the best in the world. If nobody knows about it and you don't have the right people, it's going to take you a while. So fortunately, we have really good people, including you and everybody else,
Jeremy,
running the business.
This is an interesting one, kind of ties on to that one. So George Hernandez said, how do you get over the fear as a young guy or a young girl, this guy's 26 years old, of communicating with C-suite executives? So that's an interesting one, where people feel like they're too young. They're not, they haven't earned their keep to even be in the conversation. What would you say?
I think the only way to overcome that fear is upping your sales ability, because you will always have a lack of confidence on your sales call if your sales ability is just average. Like if you don't have a great sales ability or learn how to really be successful, it's like, let me give you an analogy. It's like a neurosurgeon skipping half of school, and then they're like, hey, real quick, we got to do a surgery. We don't have anybody else. Just go in there and figure it out. And you're like, oh, you just lack confidence. So it's the same in sales. Like if you just read a couple sales books and you think you're just going to jump in there on the phone and you're going to talk to C-level executives that are making 200 or 300 grand a year, and you're starting out making 40 or 50, you're going to get punched in the face pretty quickly. So you've got to be able to, I don't like the word fake it till you make it, because I think it's not authentic. But you really have to, like, the biggest thing that I see a lot of salespeople do, they're like, oh, I'm going to get into sales training once I get hired in my first sales job. And I'm like, well, that's like a neurosurgeon saying I'm going to learn how to do brain surgery after I get my first job at a hospital. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Once I get in the car, it's like, and you're on the highway?
Yeah, exactly. You're going to learn how to drive the car once you're going down the highway. You probably want to learn how to do that before. So as a young budding salesperson, if you're a BDR, CDR, you're in the chats or whatever, DM setting or whatever you do, you get into like courses and stuff now. So by the time you get on the phone, you already really know what to do. And that's going to give you collective confidence that allows people to open up to you. They're just going to treat you with far more respect, because if you sound salesy, if you sound like you're nervous, if you sound attached, those C-level executives, I'm telling you, they're going to handle you quickly. But if you come in more neutral and unbiased, like you're not quite sure if you can help yet, you don't know enough about their situation, you come in more collective, more calm, and especially detached, those C-level executives will open right up, because they don't feel like you're trying to stuff your solution down their throat. That's what I would change for sure.
I agree. Your sales skills are essential. I think another thing is your perspective. If you, as a young guy, as an SDR, if you're going onto a phone call with a CEO and you think that you're pestering them, you're going to have a fear, because you feel like you're bringing issues to them. Yeah. But if you switch that in your mind to, and if you do truly believe it, don't sell something that you don't believe in. Yeah. But if you change that perspective that you're bringing value to that CEO or that founder or that C-suite exec, because you're bringing them the opportunity,
you're solving their problems,
some hidden gaps that are costing them money. Yeah. And so that shift is where I think the fear comes from. You know, like if I knew I'm coming to speak to you as the founder of Seventh Level and I'm coming to pester you, I'm going to be pretty apprehensive about calling
you're gonna come
Whereas
across
if I know that I've got something that you need to know about or possibly need to know about, what am I apprehensive about?
That's so true. Like Josh is so true. Like whether you do inbound leads or outbound leads or cold call, like when I got on the phone, like in my mind, I felt that I had the keys to the kingdom to this prospect, and I could solve their problems
if you don't speak to them
and get them wherever they want. And if I didn't sell to them, I was doing them disservice because their problems stay the same. They'd never get what they want. So in my mind, anytime I cold call, I never felt like I was pestering somebody. I felt like I was getting them to where they wanted to be without them not really knowing it yet. We got time for one more question, and then let's get off.
So Cy Milner, how do you get a prospect that seems to be very aloof at the start of a call to become dead certain by the end of the call that your offer is the only thing that will ultimately solve their problem?
I wonder what they sell. What do
cyber revolution? Cyber revolution,
like cyber security.
Yeah.
How would
cyber security? Well, I think it's an interesting question. I know why Cy's asking it, but sometimes you can't rush the sales cycle. You know, and maybe you speak to a prospect and you shouldn't assume that what you do is the best fit for them, because then you're attached to the sale.
Yeah.
You know, now obviously if someone's put in a email or a phone number, they have a problem.
Obviously they have a problem.
But it doesn't mean that your solution is necessarily the best thing for them.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like we're saying, go through your process. Don't try and go from here to here and forget that you've got a process to go through.
Yeah, you just follow the process. Like I knew when I followed the NEPQ process, I was going to get a certain percentage of conversions and a certain percentage of sales every week, every single month. There might be a week where I had less sales, but I know the next week I'd have more and it would counterbalance. Like I knew the process, followed the process, obviously knew it worked, and I knew I had duplicatable results and I could go out and train other teams in my company to do that.
One other thing is the way the question's worded is how do you get them from not sure that your offer is something they're
building
interested
in, building the gap from where they are, their current state, compared to where they want to be, their objective state. You can only build the gap by your questioning skills that you have and how your tone comes out, which causes them to want to open up. You have to build, if you can't build a gap from where they are currently to where they want to be, there's no sale.
I think the other thing is perspective again. You're not selling the offer.
Yeah. You're selling the results of what the thing does.
So like your job isn't as a sales rep or sales professional to take someone from, I don't know anything about this offer or this product to this is the offer, this is the product. No, your job is to say, hey, not with these questions, but is there problems and challenges in their life that are bothering them?
Yeah.
And what would actually happen if they don't fix those?
Well,
that is what you're selling is the opportunity to remove those challenges.
Yeah, you're
those
selling
problems.
the results of what that thing does. Like if you're selling solar, you're not selling them solar. You're not selling them on going solar or going green. You're selling them on a locked-in rate with a lower bill, right? If you're selling mortgage protection insurance, you're not selling them coverage. You're selling them financial protection. So when one spouse dies, the rest of the family's financially protected the rest of their life. That's what you're selling. You're not selling them a home, right? You're selling them the results of what that home does. Maybe it's to give them more status in the community, or maybe it's to get them into a safer neighborhood because the neighborhood they're moving from, there's some gang violence. Like you're selling the results of what that thing does, not the thing itself.
It's that final question after consequence. Well, you know, how important is it to you to be able to have the funds available so you can move house and be in an area where Johnny isn't worrying that he's going to get beaten up every time he walks home from school?
Qualifying question,
Qualifying.
I agree.
You know, so it's not, how important is it to you to buy this program?
Yeah.
Well,
they're not buying the program, right?
Or the offer.
They're buying the results of what it does. So, all right, everybody, thanks. We're going to end it today. We got to do some more podcasts here with our NEPQ Red. We got NEPQ Red coming in next with Kayla Hodges. NEPQ Red program. She's going to talk about her stuff and podcasts and everything. So we're excited for that. Reach out to us about that. If you're a female and you want more sales training, you want to learn more skills, reach out to us about our NEPQ Red program with Kayla Hodges, world-renowned sales trainer, #1 female sales trainer under 30, Kayla Hodges. And if you want to acquire more skills, so you want to start making your first 10 grand a month, your first 15 or 20, 25, 30 grand every single month in your industry, it's what you sell, message me directly right now. If you're on LinkedIn, the Facebook group, Facebook business page, my Facebook, message me directly right now. If you're on YouTube, you'll have to join the Facebook group. Go to salesrevolution.pro. There's a banner out here. Make sure you also follow us on IG. You've got my IG stuff right there as well. And we won't go live tomorrow because we're here at this event, but we'll be back going live at the normal schedule next week. Josh, thanks for being here, brother.
My pleasure.
You're looking good in that the J minor
tight.
polo.
He's
Like, you got a polo for me? I'm like, sure, it's large. He's like, I need an extra large. He's like this, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. All right, everybody, message me directly right now. Hope you enjoyed some Q&A with me and Josh today. Thanks, everybody. Hey guys, if you enjoyed these, here's another you can watch right over here, Join our free Sales Revolution group. Click the link below, join us, and we're gonna help you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you real soon.